and there were 4,000 of them. So anyway, when you aged up and got bulky, then you had to go out and like cut the wood and chop the wood. But until then, that probably wasn't a bad gig. You know, I'll put a log on there. So anyway, again, he keeps his power. War and peace. Who are we fighting? Who are we maintaining peace with? Making sure everybody is Catholic, which at the time in France was relatively easy, and making sure the economy was working. But what does absolute power do?
Corrupts.
Corrupts, absolutely. And he gets bitten by that hubris bug. Couldn't my man read a Greek tragedy and know just when you think you're super cool, you're actually not? While people are trying to copy him, Louis gets involved in 2 wars with his 2 traditional enemies. Those stupid Protestant Englishmen, who I've even taken in a couple of their kings, those Stuarts, and Spain. And you think if anybody would be an ally of France, it's Spain, because they're both Catholic, but they're competing for resources. And so just when Louis reaches the height of his power, he's going to blow it in expensive wars, not only in Europe, but over in North America. And while he is winning at best, stalemating at worst, pretty much all of Europe, he has to send soldiers over to the colonies, France and Canada and the United States and North America. And fighting on those 2 fronts, extending his power, exhausted Louis's own vast resources. Again, Versailles is awesome, but it took 50% just to maintain it. And he reigns for an incredible 72 years. He is the longest reigning French king. He outlives pretty much all of his sons and grandsons. And unfortunately, when Louis dies, he had that charm and that charisma and that brilliant yet evil mind, that force of will. When he dies, France is going to collapse. He makes several key mistakes. Going back to 1685, he will revoke the Edict of Nantes. And the Edict of Nantes was created by his dad that allowed freedom of worship in France. And Louis says, no, everybody else says there can be only one religion, so everyone's got to be Catholic. So a lot of what are called Huguenots are going to leave, French Protestants, and a lot of French Jews will leave and move to Germany, where they could worship freely. 250,000 people move out of France, and a lot of them were very wealthy merchants and artisans. And when they leave, they take their money with them. And so here are the wars he gets into. He takes on England and Sweden, does pretty well. Some of the German states jump in, called the League of Augsburg. And Louis winning that one. He's like, anybody else? Go get Russia or somebody, because this really isn't even hard enough. And then down in Spain, something bizarre happens. The king dies. And the next person in line for the throne is one of Louis's grandsons. And if one of Louis's grandsons gets Spain and all of the gold and silver they're sucking out of the ground in Mexico and Peru, well, grandson's not going to say no to grandpa. They're going to give it to Louis. And all of Europe says that can't happen, and they attack Louis from all sides. And as strong and powerful as France is, he is now literally taking on all of Europe. He simply just can't sustain it. And eventually his monarchy collapses. When he goes, as I said, his descendants don't have his personality, his charm, and this great French Empire, once mighty and powerful. If he just would have stopped, or got a guy like Thomas Wentworth to manage his money, who knows what France may have become, but he overextended it, and the thing collapses. So I like Louis in a lot of ways. The French people love Louis. He's their greatest king. But who had even more money than him are the Spanish. And the Spanish are so stupid rich, I don't think they knew how wealthy they actually were. How Spain blows it, I don't know. So we're going to rewind a little bit. I probably should have started with the Spanish, but I like to save them for last and do that England-France contrast. The Spanish here are just stupid rich. This is what they have. This is the famous Habsburg family. And you hear about the Austria-Hungarian Empire run by the Habsburgs, and yet there are Habsburgs in Spain. Well, for a while, it's the same family. And you'll see in a minute, all of that territory was combined. Portugal, Spain, the Italian city-states of Venice and Naples, Mexico, Peru, all the way over to the Philippines, plus the Holy Roman Empire and the Netherlands was controlled by the Spanish Habsburgs. They were England, and the sun that never set, way before England was. And it's this guy, Charles I, who gets it all. Now, the last time an emperor, did I say the 8th?
You said the first.
The first? Did I say the first? I'm sorry. The last time there was an emperor who had as much land as Charles V in continental Europe was Charlemagne. And it goes from there, 800, all the way up here to the 1500s with Charles V. And he has the empire at its height because one set of grandparents, his dad's, mom and dad, were the great Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain. His mom's grandparents were the king and queen of Austria and all of their territory. So he gets it all combined. The Americas, the Italian trading states, Austria, part of Hungary, the Holy Roman Empire. The man has got everything. Enormous wealth and great power. And Charles just didn't have what it took to rule this empire. There was somebody always unhappy with what he did. And he was a pleaser. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll try and fix it. And then when he would help out this group, well, Charles, you're not giving us enough attention. Oh my God, guys, I'm sorry. Let me try and help you. And man, you're Charles V, dude. Tell him to shut up. All right? You'll get there when you get there. I'm the king, for God's sake. But he wasn't a bright guy. He used to go up and do weird things. He would go up into the big cathedral where his ancestors were buried and like cry and talk to him and ask him for help. And I'm like, dude, what's the matter with you? But he did, all right? And the thing that gets him was the Protestant Reformation. Part of Germany was always rebelling. He's like, guys, please don't be mean. Don't rebel. And they're like, well, Charles, you don't ever come up here, so what do you care? And that's true. He's like, well, in Spain, it's warm. All right, it's sunny. We got like good food. We can like run with the bulls. We can do that like throwing the tomato thing at each other. Man, that stuff is cool. You guys have like Oktoberfest, but that's for like 13 days. Everything else pretty much sucks. All right, pretzels, okay, well, whatever. We can get those anywhere. All right. So he never goes up, and they always said, well, you favor your Spanish and colonial interest over ours. And he's like, well, yeah, all right. It's true. The other thing Charles was he was a devout Catholic. And he was bound and determined to get rid of this new Protestantism. Martin Luther, when he nailed those 99 theses to the door last week, did it under his watch. And says, oh, no. This we are not going to do. But in 1556, he breaks down. He says, the stress of running the empire is too much, I can't do it. So he divides his empire in half. He gives most of it to his son Philip, and he gives the other half to his brother. His brother will go off and become the Austria-Hungarian Habsburgs. They're just going to stay over there and downhill ski and sing Edelweiss and form their own multicultural empire. And it's his son who gets the good stuff. The Holy Roman Empire, the Americas, the Philippines, and the Netherlands. And Philip probably not a bad guy. So here is the Habsburg Empire at its height, besides the Philippines and the Americas. All this in continental Europe is Charles and Philip's empire. Not to mention everything else. I mean, they're legit. I mean, they've got money coming out of all over the place. And so, Philip, he is known as the second reign of gold. And under him, Spain has got an enormous head start. It's like if they were running an Olympic speed skating race and it was a 4-lap race, well, Spain has already completed 3 of them. For them to lose would take something just unbelievable. It's got to be seriously wrong, or there's no way the Spanish can lose. And they're bringing in wealth from, the Aztec gold, the Incan silver. All this is coming right to Cadiz and Sevilla, and they're crazy rich. And Philip, very much like Louis, was hands-on. He devotes himself to managing the empire. Once again, a very small, loyal staff. He wants to know what is happening all the time. I will make the final decision. But much like Louis, local problems are local problems. I've got to take care of the entire empire and nation as a whole. And one of the things that'll get Philip into trouble is the Inquisition and going after heretics. But what is a heretic? Maybe it's somebody who may be mentally ill. Maybe they're just antisocial and they want to be off by themselves. Maybe they're a little strange and weird. Well, they've got to be possessed, or they've got to be a witch. So I'm going to go after them, and we're going to unleash the Inquisition on people. And we're going to go get those silly Protestants. And we've got a whole new world that needs missionaries. So he spends his inexhaustible wealth on religious wars and conversion. And in Europe, let Louis fight the Protestants, all right? Why do you got to jump in? And it gets him into a lot of wars, and it starts with our good Dutch friends. They're up there with their wooden shoes, growing tulips, looking at windmills, doing whatever else we do up there in the Netherlands, According to Katie Couric, ice skating on canals and stuff, which I do, but that's all right. So, anyhow, how about Team USA, the ladies winning the gold?
Yeah.
Sorry if you're from Canada.
They won the last time.
They did. You have maple syrup,
Time before that.
lumberjacking saws and colorful money. Mounties. You gotta have those. What are those things? Those little, oh God, Tim Hortons. You got Tim Hortons, just like we had. Tim Hortons. That stuff's good. Get on here. I'll get all over that. So anyway, all right. People in the Netherlands begin to rebel because they say you're always putting Spanish interests above us, and like we want to see the king too. And he's like, well, yeah, but I'm the king of Spain. So, well, you're the king of the empire. Well, yeah, but I live in Spain, so I'm going to stay in Spain. So I'm sorry. And about 18,000 or so people begin to rebel in 7 small provinces in the Netherlands. Philip says, okay, I'm not going to put up with this crap like my dad did. He sends the army up there. But we still have the instructions. He tells them, do not kill any civilians. Go up there and look angry, smack your sword on stuff, maybe knock over a chicken coop, but don't kill anybody. And his soldiers go up there, people begin to yell, they begin to pelt them with garbage, they go back to Spain, and the Spanish army kills 18,000 people. They massacre them, men, women, and children. Philip's like, what in the heck did you guys not understand about don't kill anybody? And everybody around the Netherlands are upset who are Protestants. The German states, especially Queen Elizabeth. We're way back to her now. And good Queen E, good Queen Bess, is terrified. Because if Spain goes up there and hammers the Netherlands, well, the English, her dad, has just destroyed the Catholic Church, Charles V is best friends with the Pope. All right, Catherine of Aragon was Charles V's sister, all right, that he annulled the marriage. And so Philip II, that's his aunt, all right. So we have all this Spanish Catholic religious connection, and Philip wants to put boots on the ground in England. We can't stop him, all right. We better go to the Lady of the Lake and ask her if she'll chuck out Excalibur or something. And it's like, we're in bad shape. Like, we got like nothing. All right, we've been hanging out here for a while. And so the Queen, worried about sea power, tells her English sea captains, hey, look, man, we need some ships and some money. So if you happen to run across a Spanish ship and you can capture that thing, gotcha. And she had a guy named Francis Drake, who at this time is an English sea captain, but he's also a pirate. Well, whatever technique he had, he was the very best at capturing a Spanish galleon. He was a little shifty. One, he would get right behind it, and he would just kind of, bird dog it, and he would always raise a flag of it. He had like flags from everything, all right? He was like, like a good, a kid obsessed with, World Cup soccer. You need a flag from Ghana? Got one, all right? All right? Vatican flag? Got one, all right? I got stuff. And he would run up that flag, or sometimes he would act like he was having trouble, and a ship would come aboard, and his men would raid it. But he always got right behind, because a lot of the ships, especially the Spanish galleons, couldn't shoot out the back. And he brought 2 specially made cannons that he embedded in the bow of his ship, the Golden Hind. And he is amazing at capturing Spanish galleons and their wealth and dragging them back to England. And the Spanish are mad at this. And when they're up there putting down the Protestant rebellion, a letter is given to Queen Elizabeth that says, you tell your boy, Francis Drake, to stop attacking our ships. Should he attack one more, it's going to be an act of war against Spain. Oh my God, don't want to make Spain mad. Don't worry, I'll handle it. And Francis Drake gets back, and he lands in Dover and is told that he's expected in the palace to get himself to London with all possible speed. And he does. And he goes in to see the Queen. A lot of the Spanish courtiers are there. They're watching. They're like, yeah, this little punk's going to get his right now. Here it is. Here it is. Sir, Francis Drake, have you been attacking ships on the high sea? Dilly. Right. What do I say to this? And she's like, okay, for your actions, I want you to kneel before me. And she draws a sword. And the Spanish are like, yeah, she's got his head off right here. It's going to be awesome. We'll like play t-ball with that thing. It's going to be great. All right. And he kneels down, and she says, by the order of St. George and St. John, I dub thee Knight of the Realm. You are now Sir Francis Drake. And he's like, yeah, woo, all right, all right, all right. Thought you gave me the wink there, my dear. You told me to go get him. And the Spanish courtiers are angry. They tell Philip II, and he's like, okay, that is it. I've got inexhaustible wealth. I got these big, giant ships. I'm going to send 68 of them up there with several thousand warriors. And after we get done hammering those stupid wooden shoe-wearing Dutch, we're going after England. And Elizabeth herself believes that she overstepped her bounds. She actually had a suit of armor herself, and she was riding out to cheer her men on. She was going to meet the Spanish on the beach. She figures, well, we're all going to die, so I might as well get down there and try and rally the troops. And so Charles isn't taking this easy. He sends 60,000, right? Pretty much every soldier he's got. This is going to be an epic beatdown. England is finally going to get it. We're sending everybody we have. Now, not all of them came on the ship. Some of them were already on land and stationed. This is an enormous number of people. But most of them, a good almost a third of them, come on these ships. And they get into the English Channel. If you've ever been on it, you know it is a nasty body of water. And the Spanish galleons are made for ocean going, and they don't understand the treacherous currents of the channel, where you got the Atlantic Ocean current and North Sea current being compressed between Great Britain and Northern Europe. And a storm blows up. And the Spanish sea captains throw out their anchors. They throw one off the stern and two off the bow to try and stabilize the ships. And they're still rocking and rolling in the squall. And these are sailors. They're used to storms at sea, but nothing like this. So somebody has the idea, let's throw heavy ropes over and tie our ships together. We'll make like a giant floating platform, and that way we're safe. And this nasty fog comes in. And the Spanish are riding out the storm. Oh my God, everybody hang on. And it's in that storm that the British Navy, led by Sir Francis Drake, strikes. Their ships were much smaller. They literally come flying down the Thames. They were accustomed to navigating the stormy waters of the Channel, and they knew right where the Spanish were. They were 19 miles away near Calais and Dunkirk, where the famous World War II evacuation was. And they're a sitting duck. And Sir Francis Drake, in this like pouring rain and fog, took an old Spanish trick and used it against them. They put old rotten ships and they covered them in like coal oil and combustibles and lit them on fire. And they shove them out in front, and the wake is taking them right to the Spanish. Out of the fog comes all of these burning ships. The Spanish are like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We're all tied together. They start chopping the anchors and the ropes, tying them together. Tying and cutting off an anchor here and an anchor there causes the boats to slam into each other. Some get caught in the log jam, and some are nearly tipping over, and they break and they scatter because all of these ships are wooden. Well, it's pouring down rain or not. The most terrifying thing for a sailor is having his wooden ship burned. So they all take off. And the Spanish galleons had 20 to 30 guns, but they could only fire at you broadside. They had to be turned right at you. Well, Sir Francis Drake's ships only had 10 guns, but 2 off the front and at least 1 on the back. And while they were much smaller, it's very similar to the Greek-Persian War battle of Salamis. They isolate and kind of separate a Spanish galleon, and 4 or 5 of them attack it and sink it, and then they get another one. Most of the galleons that escape have to sail way up by Norway, all the way up and above around Scotland, around and go deep out into the Atlantic to get back to Spain. Of the 68 ships, 18 make it back. So many soldiers are lost, and those galleons are big, but man, they're expensive. And all of a sudden, those were the same galleons that would leave Cadiz in the spring, sail over to the Americas, load up with gold and silver, winter in Puerto Rico, and then head back the next year. It was called the flotilla system. Every 6 months, there was a rotation of ships. Well, Philip just lost half or more of his fleet. And, to compound matters, the inexhaustible wealth that he thought he had, sucking gold and silver out of Mexico and Peru, is about to dry up. Not only did he lose expensive equipment, but now he can't replace it. And if he could replace it, he can't go over there and get it. The Spanish were accustomed to spend, knowing that, well, the next 6 months later, we're going to get piles of gold coming off the ships. And then it was 2/3. Then it was half. And then it was 1/3. And finally, they've got nothing left. All of this perfect storm happens right after the Armada is sunk. It's so bad that the richest man in the world, King Philip, has to borrow money off of German bankers. Right? He's spent money before he had it, and all of a sudden he's broke. And it causes the great Spanish monarchy to completely and totally implode. They were a dominant power in Europe. Everybody was terrified of them, even the French. And they're going to blow it on religious wars and infighting. And that wealth that we thought would never end, the well runs dry, and Spain has never again attained the height and power of glory that they once did. They've only been a secondary or tertiary player in European affairs. The other half of the family over in Austria, they're going to do awesome. They're going to stick around from the 1300s and last up until the end of World War I. So we've had 3 absolutists in Europe. The Stuarts blow it. Charles and Philip and Louis had it all locked down, and they somehow managed to blow money that none of us can consciously understand. All right? I really can't. It's like there's people who win the lottery, and they're like, oh, well, the lottery ruined my life. Well, yeah, because, no offense, you're dumb. Let me show you how to do that, all right? Let me win this Powerball, or maybe whatever. Legos will show you the right way to handle it.
Sign the back of the ticket.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It starts with that.
Yeah, like, oh, you can't let them know who I am. Lady, look, buy a new identity. All right, like, this is, where's like New Hampshire or wherever? Yeah, like really? Move to Vermont. They're not going to find you. Get crazy, go to Maine. That's crazy. Yeah, right? Move to North Carolina. Anyway, next week we're going to finish it off. We're going to see how other people manage being absolutists. We're going to start with good old Peter the Great, ancient relative of Meredith Moscow Bolin over here. I don't know if that's true, but we'll make people believe it. Peter, not a bad guy for if you're a peasant Russian. If you're a noble, you probably don't like him so much. And then we're going to look at the Asian absolute monarchs, the Ming Dynasty of China, Tokugawa Ieyasu of Japan, the Mughal Emperor Akbar the Great of India, and Suleiman the Magnificent of the Ottoman Empire. And we're going to see who handled wealth and absolute power better, Europe and or Asia, for the second half of absolutism. So next week, please come back if I didn't put you to sleep. Grab a friend, bring some people in here. Those 2 snow days killed us, man. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, if it's just us, well, then it's just us. I'd rather have a small, hardcore group than a bunch of bandwagon riders. So, also next week, be thinking, I gave Todd credit for this on the radio. It might not have even been him, but he's stigmatized with it now. Thinking of like kind of kick-starting where we began years ago. Some of you who have been here forever, it'll be so sad to say goodbye maybe. Or maybe doing like a little industrial revolution, nationalism, imperialism, or something totally new. We got to think about doing something on the presidents. Just things that you can think of that will kick around. It's never too early to think about next year. So anyway, any questions?
I just got a quick question. Did any of the ships of the Armada get shipwrecked on the coast of Ireland?
Yes.
The reason, okay,
yes.
yeah, because I can find an Irish of Irish descent, and I checked back into the records, and I have a guy whose surname is Barrago, which sounds to me like it could be a Spanish name.
A lot of them kind of, as they tried to go counterclockwise around, the ships were so battered, many of them had to abandon ship. Some guys stayed in France, some guys landed in Scotland, Ireland. Some guys made it all the way to Iceland and said, look, we can't go home as failures or they'll kill us, so we're just standing down. Yes, ma'am?
You talked about Oliver Cromwell. Was there another Oliver Cromwell? Because he destroyed
enjoyed a lot of
Thomas
Ireland.
Cromwell,
That was that.
under Henry VIII.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, actually, they were family.
They were
So,
family,
they were
right.
family, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, powerful, puritanical. I don't think I would have liked, I mean, he was a smart guy, very organized, but I don't think I would have gotten along very well.
Ireland.
Yeah, so anyway, anything else? No? All right.
Thank you.
And you're very welcome. So if anybody ever is into Ireland, I used to lead a great tour that I called Castles and Cathedrals. Calais to Canterbury or Canterbury to Calais. I'll give it to you and take your families and have like a great time.
What, you're not going with us?
I can go with you if you want me to, but I always get us in trouble.
I was thinking it would be like pubs.
You can't drag
Yeah.
out.
Famous pub.
Yeah, right. They're like, oh, Bill's back. Hey, Bill. I'm like, hey, all right, yeah, all right. You know. So anyway, it's me himself is back. Yeah. So, all right. Spin us a tale. And I'm like, yeah. So what was? I want to go to that town where.